After over 1,000 years of rock-cut shrines in India, structural stone temples in grand and developed styles were made by the 8th century. The southern form was seen in Tamil Nadu under the Pallavas. Under the early western Chalukyas, both southern and northern forms were seen at Pattadakkal and Alampur. In the meantime, further northeast, the land of present-day Orissa witnessed prolific temple building by the 7th and 8th centuries. The region around Bhubaneswar had been a great centre of religious activity since early times. There are edicts of Emperor Ashoka of the 3rd and Jaina caves of the 2nd century BC. The oldest surviving structural temples here are of the 7th century, of the Shatrughaneshwara group. The temples are dedicated to Shiva and are of the Pashupata sect, who followed the teachings of Lakulisha. The temple is where the unmanifest eternal is given a form. The devotee has here a representation to meditate upon, so as to awaken qualities within himself. Qualities which will take him on the path of realization. The outer surface of the temple presents the many aspects of the deity within. It also presents images of the world of creation around us, and of the joyous realization of the divinity which is in all that there is.
One of the fascinating parts of studying temple sculpture is to understand it within its architectural context, where it not only has the meaning of the piece itself, but it has the larger meaning of the entire complex statement that the temple is making about the universe.
The doorway of the temple is given special attention. Here we leave the world of outward forms to enter the sacred interior. Doorways here continue the richly foliated designs seen from the 5th century during the Gupta period. Themes and an Odissan style are established, which continue in Hindu and Buddhist monuments in the centuries to come. Shiva is seen in his many forms. A well-preserved temple of the 7th or 8th century is the Parshurameshwara, also of the Pashupata sect. All Indian temples are made according to norms and proportions, which are carefully laid down. Here in Orissa, we are fortunate that texts have survived which give distinctive names, descriptions, proportions, and measurements of the different sections of the temples. Orissa is also a rare place where the traditions and canons have been passed on from father to son among a few surviving families of sthapatis or builders and artists. The temple is made in two parts. The tower is called Dyul in Orissa, and the hall is called a Jagmohan. The Parshurameshwara temple faces west, and its Dyul is about 40 feet high. The walls of both the Dyul and the Jagmohan are lavishly sculpted, with architectural motifs and a profusion of figures. The most repeated form is the horseshoe shape, coming since the earliest times from the large windows of the Chaityagrihas. These frame figures of animals, humans, and divinities. The temple represents the expanding form of the deity. From the dark interior of the sanctum, Shiva is now seen in many manifestations. To understand the temple, we must always remember that all these deities are an embodiment of the eternal, which is formless and which is within each of us. These are a means to fix our thoughts and to help us on the path towards the truth. Central projections on 3 sides of the tower contain the images most closely related to Shiva. These include his sons Ganesha and Kartikeya, who occupies the niche on the east. The peacock which he rides is seen below, killing a snake, as peacocks are known to do. The lintel above the niche depicts the marriage of Shiva and Parvati. The Mukteshwara temple in Bhubaneswar of the 10th century marks many developments over the structures of the past. It is small, with a dule or tower less than 35 feet high. However, it is acclaimed as a gem of Orissa architecture and is richly carved. We see here Nagas and Naganis, with their long serpent tails coiled around pilasters on which they are made. This is one of the favorite themes of the Orissa sculptors and rarely seen in any other part of India. The roof of the Jagmohan or hall has by now taken on the Pidha shape, which was to become typical in this region. Myths of Lord Shiva and the tales of the victory of knowledge over the evil of ignorance abound on the temple walls. There is also the all-pervasive sense of joy which fills the depictions. The sculptures include a fine figure of Nataraja, Shiva in his cosmic dance. Warriors, both men and women, mounted on a lion or griffin are made, often trampling an elephant. The Torana entrance is first seen here in this region and has exquisite carvings upon it. On the upper part of the dule appears an elaborately decorated ornament of Orissan architecture, the bho. It consists of a Chaitya arch with a Kirti Mukha above. The Raja Rani temple was built around 1000 AD. The Jagmohan has a Pidha roof in many layers in the established Orissa style. However, the dule or tower has many clusters of the tower shape built around it. This gives it the appearance of a mountain. It is similar to the temples which were developing in central India at this time. The entrance to the Jagmohan has marvelous depictions of a Naga and Nagini created around pilasters. These represent the abundance as well as the protective forces of nature and are a theme seen in Indian art since earliest times. The dule of the temple is richly carved. There are numerous images of beautiful maidens. Along with the Nagas, ancient Indian art of all faiths had always depicted yakshas and yakshis, representing the creative forces of nature. These are now seen on Orissan temples in the form of Alasya Kanyas, or languorous maidens, who are made in all parts of the temple. The text of the Shilpa Prakasha on temple building states that these are indispensable in the making of a temple. It describes 16 types of such beautiful young girls to be made. Popular themes include a maiden pulling down the branch of a tree, which is similar to the Shala Bhanjika of ancient times. Others include her removing an anklet or holding a pet bird. These figures embody the creative impulses of the natural world, which ensure the continuance of life. Corner projections of the Dyol have finally made Dikpalas, the deities who are the lords of different directions. Agni, who represents fire, is seen with the ram upon which he rides. Yama, the lord of death, is seen with a noose and his buffalo. There is a very fine representation of Varuna. The Brahmeshwara temple of the 11th century is made in the typical Orissa style. It is dedicated to Shiva and is made in the Panchyatna form with 4 smaller shrines around the main one. The sculpture is finely made and richly covers the surface of the temple. Alasya Kanyas remind us of the joy of creation around us, and divinities convey the essence of grace which underlies it all. The Lingaraja temple of the 12th century marks a high point in the tradition of temple building in Orissa. The temple is dedicated to Shiva and continues to be in worship till today. The Dyol rises to about 150 feet. The balance and proportions of the various parts of the temple and the elegance of its surface treatment make it one of the crowning achievements of the Orissan architect. The sculptures on the temple blend perfectly with the lines of its architecture, and the effect is majestic. A subsidiary shrine in the compound is dedicated to Parvati. It is probably of the 13th century and is richly carved. At Khiching, in what is today a very remote northeast part of Orissa, stands the reconstructed Khichkeshwari temple. It is originally of the 7th or 8th century and was restored in the early 20th century by the local Raja. While the work was done in the traditional manner, using an earthen ramp to take up large blocks of stone, there were no references to determine the original shape of the temple. Therefore, the temple structure is disproportionate. However, the high quality of the sculpture on this temple and others in the area testifies to the fact that this was an important center of culture. Two images of Mahishasur-Mardani on the north of the temple are of a very fine quality. Durga is seen killing the buffalo demon, which signifies the victory of knowledge over ignorance. The power in the images and the fine features display an excellent quality of art. the Chaitya arches, the Mithuna figures, Nagas and Naganis, and the foliated carvings are similar to the Bhubaneswar temples. The structure is made of blue, fine-grained chlorite, which is a stone which endures and is conducive to fine carving. With the emergence of structural temples in the plains of the Ganga from the 5th century onwards, we see similar themes and motifs in North, Central and Eastern India. Yet, these are transformed by hands which bring the full richness of the local idiom. Here in the 10th and 11th centuries in Orissa, we see subjects of the art which are very similar to those of this period in central India at Khajuraho. However, the sculpture is unmistakably of Orissa. It is this colour of the local culture in every region of India which makes the tapestry of Indian art infinitely rich and varied. In the meantime, the Western Ganga dynasty ruled in the region of present-day Karnataka. They were most prominent in the 10th century and are known for their monuments at the Jaina holy site of Shravanabelagola. Chandragupta was the great Maurya king of the 4th century BC and the grandfather of Emperor Ashoka. In his later years, he is believed to have renounced his worldly life and become a Jaina ascetic. It is here at Shravanabelagola that he is believed to have come to give up the bindings of his mortal body. In 982, Chamunda Raya, minister of King Rajamalla IV, made an impressive temple which is commonly known as Chamunda Raya Basti. The granite temple is southern in form. In 983, the minister dedicated a colossal statue of Bahubali, also known as Gomteshwara. This is about 60 feet high and is the largest freestanding monolithic sculpture of the world.
This is Shravanabelagola image is about 57 feet high, and it is a monolith. And that's why it has a unique place in the history of the world, or the art of the world. As a monolith, carved in situ, and with that kind of beauty and symmetry added to it, I do not think you find similar kind of parallels anywhere in the world.
The early art of the Jainas was similar to that of the Buddhists, as we saw at stupa sites of the Kushana period. By now, the Jaina style had developed in a different direction. The depictions appear formal and stylized rather than naturalistic. They convey a spirit of extreme detachment from the material and sensual world. Their objective is to take us to a rarefied realm of pure objectivity. Gomteshwara was the son of Rishabhnatha, the first Jaina Tirthankara, or victor over the fear of death. He stood for so long in meditation that creepers and anthills grew around his unmoving body. He stands in the specific position of meditation known as Kayutsarga. The limbs are held straight and the arms do not touch the body. The slightest smile is upon his face. It conveys an inner tranquility without disturbing the concentration within which the figure conveys. The Jainas believe, as do Buddhists and Hindus, in samsara. This is the illusory nature of the world of separated material forms around us. We need to lift the veils of the illusion to see the unity of creation. There is a great clarity of vision and intellectual discipline with which Jaina teachings focus upon the path towards realization. Renunciation of attachments to the material world is a prime consideration in the path towards salvation.
It's not only giving up the land or ornaments or the attachment to the family, or taking off one's own clothes and becoming naked so that is to symbolize that he is no longer needing anything. But the attachment within the mind, within the soul, within what you call thought, that was very, very important. So Bahubali, in order to attain this, he mortifies his body. Mortification is one aspect of the Jain tradition. Mere mortification has no meaning for them. The mortification is to be followed by what you could call is the enlightenment.
In the Indian tradition, deities of all faiths are adored. They are treated with reverence and fondness. They are given ritual baths and offered fresh flowers and fruit. The tradition finds its most exuberant expression in the grand Mahamastak Abhishekha of the colossal Gomteshwara statue. From extreme asceticism to the grand celebration of divinity, the aim is always to lose mundane attachments and desires, to lose oneself in a quest for the realization of the divinity which pervades all of creation.